and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on. I'm awash with this stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavour show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of the UK's second-largest city, Birmingham.
Right then, let's get straight into it. Today we're immersed in Ambridge, but this isn't your typical village life source material.
No, not at all.
We're diving into an audio recording from The Archers, BBC Radio 4, and it captures a VE day that was, well, all set for celebration.
Right, until the news broke about Peggy Woolley passing away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a really poignant mix of emotions right from the start.
Yeah, and what immediately strikes you is how it layers the ordinary with the extraordinary, doesn't it? You've got this community gearing up to commemorate a massive historical event, VE Day.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're navigating all the usual, everyday dramas.
The usual Ambridge stuff.
Exactly. Cricket chat, a missing cat.
Yeah.
But it's all overshadowed by this incredibly personal loss of Peggy, a real village stalwart.
Precisely. We're talking, like you said, cricket chat, the missing cat, Hilda, some simmering tensions between neighbors.
Oh, yes.
And the preparations for the WIT, the Women's Institute tea.
Always central.
And then, bam, everything just shifts with the news about Peggy. It really throws into sharp relief how these big life moments, they don't exist in a vacuum, do they?
No, they're always part of our daily tapestry, tangled up with everything else.
Absolutely. So for you, our listener, always keen to get the essentials quickly, but, properly. Thoroughly, yeah. We're going to unpack the most affecting parts of this broadcast. We'll explore how this community experienced both that public celebration and the very private grief.
Yeah, our aim here is to really get a feel for the atmosphere in Ambridge on that specific day. What were the planned events for VE Day?
Right.
And how did the news of Peggy's death actually ripple through the village? How did it change things, influence interactions, the planned celebrations?
Okay, let's start with the intended commemoration then. Brian Aldrich, he's always one for reflection, isn't he?
Yeah.
He'd visited the Loxley exhibition. And he was thinking about British spirit, short, but also significantly.
Yes.
He acknowledged the contributions of soldiers from India, Kenya, Sudan.
That's a really crucial point, actually, because it sets a tone, doesn't it? That this remembrance wasn't meant to be purely sort of inward-looking or just nationalistic.
Right. His reflections broaden the scope beyond just Britain.
Yeah, there's a recognition there, at least from Brian, of the wider historical context, the diverse range of people involved in the Allied effort.
Definitely. And then, more locally, the community was looking forward to a lunch at the ball and, of course, the WIT.
The WIT seems like a real hub.
It does. And we even get these little practical details, like Mick worrying about the weather and whether the wood for the beacon would be too damp to light properly.
It's those small things, isn't it? They really anchor the grand occasion in, everyday reality.
Totally.
It's fascinating, that contrast. You've got the symbolic act, lighting the beacon, a big traditional marker.
Yeah.
And then the very down-to-earth worry about damp wood shows how even our most meaningful rituals can be tripped up by practical stuff. And then you've got the arrival of Reginald Dodge's granddaughter and her family.
Ah, yes. Connecting the present to the past.
Exactly. Through descendants of someone remembered at the WIT event itself. Adds another layer.
Okay, so then we shift to, classic Ambridge dynamics. The cricket chat.
With some friction simmering underneath.
Yeah, this seemingly lighthearted but actually quite pointed discussion about an online cricket chat.
The one that excludes female cricket chairs.
Right. And this sparks the whole poo cakes debate.
The quality of refreshments at matches, a perennial topic.
It seems so. Deba versus Hilda on cold sandwiches versus a rustic fruit loaf.
But that banter, it seems trivial, but it actually reveals some interesting undercurrents, doesn't it?
You think so?
Well, yeah, what starts as teasing sort of exposes maybe deeper divisions around inclusivity, maybe mutual respect.
Linda's comments certainly seem direct.
Very direct. About the exclusion, the nature of the humor. It suggests a real dissatisfaction that's, about more than just food preferences.
Yeah, you're right. Deba was team fruit loaf. Hilda, unimpressed with the sandwiches.
But Linda cuts through it.
She does. Straight to the feeling of being excluded because she's a woman. And Lawrence's reaction.
Dismissive. Just a bit of fun.
Yeah, completely failing to get her perspective, it seems.
Exactly. He tries to minimize her concerns, But her remarks suggest, this isn't the first time. It's not just about the tea. It reflects these broader questions about how people are valued if their voices are heard.
Okay, changing tack a bit. We then hear about Tony and Lillian.
Ah, the search for Hilda the cat?
Yes, their frantic search. It's very relatable, that worry. Checking behind towels.
Even considering the drain pipe based on Clary's story?
Right. But what's really significant here is why they're so stressed.
It's not just the missing cat, is it?
No. It's about Peggy. They're genuinely worried about how Peggy will react when she visits and Hilda's not there.
So they cook up that plan.
To pretend they saw Hilda that morning.
Yeah.
Just to avoid upsetting Peggy.
Which really speaks volumes about their affection for her, doesn't it?
It really does. Going to those lengths, it says a lot about Peggy and how much she was loved and considered.
Indeed. And this small, very personal drama is playing out right alongside the big public commemoration prep.
Yeah, a real illustration of how individual lives just, carry on regardless of the bigger picture.
Then we get that really uncomfortable exchange.
Lawrence and Linda.
Yeah. He tries to talk to her, engage her.
And she just shuts him down completely.
Very directly, referencing his past behavior, the unwelcome advances.
And then accusing him of racism.
Stemming from that earlier interaction with her young friend Khalil, it's quite intense.
It is. This feels like a pivotal moment. Linda's accusations are serious. They reveal these deeper, maybe unresolved tensions.
And Lawrence's reaction again, dismissive, no acknowledgement of her feelings.
It just highlights his problematic behavior, really.
And raises questions, doesn't it, about how these conflicts are handled, or maybe not handled, in a place like Ambridge.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast to the earlier, lighter stuff. It shows a much darker current. And just as these personal dramas are hitting these peaks, the focus shifts dramatically.
The phone call.
The phone call to the Laurels. Lillian and Tony getting the news.
Peggy's passed away. Peacefully.
The way it's conveyed in the recording is just incredibly impactful. Tony's disbelief first.
No, she can't have.
Yeah. And then Lillian's immediate sorrow. It just brings the reality of the loss right into focus.
And then Joy arrives, right? And she sees the beacon being lit.
Yeah, the celebration is actually happening, but against this backdrop of sudden personal tragedy for Lillian and Tony.
It's such a powerful juxtaposition, the community collectively marking VE Day a triumph over past loss.
While they're grappling with their own fresh, profound loss right now.
Their first instinct is just to go to the Laurels, isn't it? To say goodbye.
A very human reaction. Understandable.
And the community's reaction when the news spreads, it really shows how deep Peggy's roots were in Ambridge.
Brian expressing his sense of loss. Helen saying how sad Henry is.
These feel like genuine expressions of grief, don't they? From people whose lives she really touched.
Yeah. And when Lillian, Tony, and Joy get back, their conversation, it captures that mix, doesn't it? Sadness, but also the preciousness of those last moments they managed to have with Peggy.
Right. And Brian's little story.
About Peggy asking for dry white wine near the end.
Yeah. It's such a lovely personal memory to hold on to amidst all the sadness. Captures her spirit, maybe.
It does. These small, intimate details are so important in how we remember people, aren't they?
Absolutely. They capture the essence in a way formal tributes sometimes miss.
And the fact that Pat and Lillian immediately start planning a Peggy slideshow.
In the village hall.
Yeah.
It shows that community need, doesn't it? To gather, remember, honor her together.
Then Joy steps up. She offers to narrate it instead of Pat.
Recalling Peggy's kindness, that compliment about her spirit, linking it to her own mother-in-law, Doris.
It shows that connection, that desire to do Peggy justice in this remembrance.
And what's really moving, I think, is that Lillian and Tony had no idea Peggy and Pat were even planning this slideshow.
No idea at all.
It just speaks volumes about Peggy's thoughtfulness, doesn't it? Wanting to leave those memories behind for them.
It really does. And then the lights dim for the slideshow.
Yeah. Joy starts her narration. She acknowledges the VE Day commemoration.
But immediately pivots.
Immediately shifts to honor Peggy, describing her as a much-loved mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and friend.
A legend.
A legend who lived 100 years with spirit. Sometimes controversial, sure.
But always community-minded.
Right. And Joy draws that connection to VE Day again, suggesting that finishing the commemoration by celebrating Peggy.
A woman who had such a profound impact on their hearts, their minds, the community.
Is actually the most fitting way to end the day. It's incredibly powerful framing.
It really is. It elevates her life, her contributions, making them part of the bigger story.
Suggesting individual lives and community bonds are integral to that historical narrative.
And the first slide they show. Young Tony, Jennifer, and Lillian.
With their mother, Peggy, on the village green.
Such an evocative picture. Real nostalgia of family history right there.
And even in their grief, Jennifer and Brian react with that shared affection, remembering. It's powerful.
And Lillian's simple words.
I just wish we were watching this with Mom.
Oh, it just brings home that personal loss right at the heart of this community gathering, the void Peggy left.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, a couple of really significant themes stand out, don't they?
Definitely. We see this beautiful and sometimes messy intertwining of community celebration and very personal grief.
Yeah, this broadcast really highlights how our everyday interactions, those long-standing relationships, that's what really shapes how we experience these big events, both the joyful and the sorrowful ones.
Which leads us to think, well, how do your own communities navigate those moments, those times when collective joy and individual sorrow collide?
How do you find that balance? Remembering the past, acknowledging present loss. It's tricky.
It really is.
And maybe a final thought to ponder on, how will future generations remember people like Peggy, individuals?
How will their personal stories, the everyday stuff of their lives, their impact, how will that get woven into the broader historical narrative, especially alongside the grand commemorations?
It really makes you think about the lasting legacy of individual lives, doesn't it, on our collective memory?
So what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just
And,
moving mics around.
So what do you do?
I do the spot effects on the archers. Any
Are you what we
movements
call Foley then?
and- kind of. Yep.
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production.
Yep. That's the ball bar. That's,
This one.
yep. That's.
I mean, Hayley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came. It's due in 2 months. Not much chance of that now. No. I mean, it would have been a stretch for them financially, mind, but I just wish there was something practical I could do to help them, Caroline. I mean,
I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years, basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever